Oh, but it was a godsend. It came at such a good time for our guys. 11 games with basically 2 days to prepare. You always have to take a day off. On those days you got 3 days, and so there was never a day off. I mean, you're always prepping, you're always getting ready, and they came fast and furious. And just that's the way. There's always going to be pros and cons to your conference schedule, and to have the bye at the start, there's pros to it, but there's cons to it, and we lived through some of those cons toward the ends of this run. So it just, we took full advantage of it. Our guys, their minds are fresh for the stretch run. It's down the stretch we come.
How'd you approach it in terms of days off and want to work on yourself, but also work on your bodies and kind of mix that?
Yeah, you gotta. Your mind and body is the most important thing in this time of year in February, because if your mind wears down, it can cause your body to wear down. It can cause injuries. It can cause. So that's priority one. And then you got. It's not the same for everybody. What's good for maybe Tyson and Max might be different for some of the guys that aren't getting those heavy minutes. So we made it work for each guy individualized. And the thing that I tell them is you're pros. You guys know exactly what you need, and you have a say in your body management, your mind management. So if you need to go sit by the river for 3 hours and watch the water flow, that might be the best thing for you. If you need to come in here and get 45 minutes of good shooting, that might be so you got to trust that with some of the guys and mentor them on what they need to do. And I think these guys manage it great. And we're excited to go for, like I said, down the stretch we come. It's the horse race on the final turn.
You mentioned this home stretch. I mean, what are your thoughts? The conference is so competitive. You guys could have 4, maybe 5, seeds in the tournament.
Maybe more.
Yeah, maybe more. What are your thoughts on this home stretch, and how big is every game down the home stretch?
Yeah, it's funny because everyone talks about that, but as coaches and a player, every game we approach that way. We approach our November games that way, but it always does have they take on a different value and a different feel, which is weird because you played some really valuable games, and you don't think that St. Mary's game on a neutral court in December 5th was valuable, and so it does, but it does take on a more of a, because you don't have that many left, and everyone's talking about it now, it seems like, and so they maybe to the outside world take on a different value, but you got to stay in your process. You got to just keep doing what you do to get ready for those games in the right way, but understand that there's not many left and they're sacred.
I know this is competitive every year, but is it maybe the most competitive this year that it's been in many years?
Yeah, and I think I've talked about that a little bit. I think that the one difference that I can see is, you got guys that were born in the 90s playing in this league, and it makes for good players. And when you got that many old, especially at the point guard position, you look around the league, a lot of these teams have old point guards. Huge difference. And it's like having an old veteran quarterback that, and in college, they're not at the end of their careers. They're closer to the peak of their abilities when they're 23, 24, 25.
Yeah, you probably treat every game the same, like you said. Every game is just as scary, but these games against the perceived bottom of the league, where fans, metrics, whatever, think you're just going to go out there and roll over somebody, that would be considered a bad loss compared to a quad one game. Is it?
Yeah,
are these games almost more important because of
no?
the bad loss and all that?
I don't. You don't approach them that way, but we approach them with the respect they deserve, because you look. We said this about UNLV way back when we were getting ready to play them, and people had them pegged as, now look where they are. And, you talk about Fresno on Saturday, and they had a shot to win against UNLV the other night. That's the quality of this league and the teams that, it's like I've said before, if you don't play a good game, it doesn't matter who you play. You're probably going to have a hard time winning, and that's anybody against anybody. And there were some years where you could play a we played a C plus and they played an A minus and we still won. Those days are out. Not with this league this year.
Fresno game, you guys were able to build up a pretty good lead early part of the second half, and they came back. What did they do in that game that gave you guys trouble that you have to be wary of coming in?
Well, right now they're playing a lot of different guys, and their lineup's a lot different than what we played even a month ago or whenever, how many days it was ago. So that they've, things change a lot, and so it's almost like we're preparing for a little bit different team, and we'll see who ends up being able to play for them in this game. You just don't know, but they were super competitive last night, and but again, like I said, it looked a lot different than the team that we played a month ago.
They only had 6 scholarship players available for much of that game last night, and then they had the one dude averaging 4 points go for 30 or whatever. I mean, how hard is that when you don't know who's going to play and what the line is?
It is. It is. It makes some uncertainty, but those are good players. Like, I've always appreciated Calamario's game, and that kid, he's a baller. And when he scored 30, I was like not that surprised. I mean, and it can create matchup problems the way they're playing, the way they finished that game last night. That's they create their own set of different problems because of how they played last night.
What have you learned, some of the mostly about your team this year from the start of the year to today? What has it taught you?
Well, I think toughness comes to mind. It's a pretty darn tough team and pretty positive team, a team that really cares for each other and fun to be around, easy to coach, all those things, which, when you go through a season in the grind, and there's a lot of teams that go through a lot in February. February is a tough month, and if they're not connected, if they don't really like each other, if they have their own agendas, that starts to show up this time of year a lot for a lot of programs. And with this team, I don't see any of that. They're focused on the right stuff day in and day out.
Coaches no longer wearing suit and tie.
Oh, the greatest adjustment in the history of sports.
Just your thoughts on it.
Yeah.
Colby Blaine out at College of Idaho.
When they invented nets and they had to stop poking the ball out of the bucket, and when we got out of suits, maybe the two best advances in the history of college basketball. I wasn't there for the first one, but no, Musselman, you don't give Musselman credit for anything. You guys, I don't know why you. No, we were doing it pretty early, but I had a lot of old mentors that that kind of kept me in a suit longer than I wanted to be in a suit. I think the credit goes to the exempt events. That's when we always did it. Yeah, Hawaiian church. You started doing it there, and you were like, "This is so great."
That you wear sneakers with the suit.
I know. Yeah, that didn't. No, but it
COVID, right?
it looks so much better. When you do it right, when you just wear the right stuff. It looks like yeah. I think we should do what baseball does, and Bernie should wear a uniform on the. Make the assistants do it though. That'd be great. Bernie, what uniform are you gonna? Yeah. Okay. How to